Welcome to Between the Covers, the show for readers and writers and lovers of books. I'm Stephanie, and I'm a publisher at Red Penguin Books, where we publish books of all types and genres. So whether you have a manuscript all ready to go, a book still stuck in your head, or maybe even 500 sheets of loose leaf shoved in a drawer. And yes, probably once a month, I do receive a packet of loose leaf. Please visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and unleash your inner author. Well, I'm sure you want to meet authors who have unleashed themselves. And I'm so excited today to introduce you to author Anthony Cephas. Anthony is the author of My New Glasses. And he writes that My New Glasses wants to show you all of the big feelings that 4-year-old Jupiter experiences in this funny and heartwarming book. Whether he's worried, nervous, happy, or anxious, both parents and children alike will relate to this beloved story. A perfect way to teach children about differences and the fear of the unknown. From Jupiter's Adventures, My New Glasses. So please welcome author Anthony Cephas. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
I'm thrilled. But look at you, you're not wearing glasses. How do you know how people feel when they wear glasses?
Oh, yes. I get that a lot. Well, I used to wear glasses, but glasses are more of a metaphor
Yeah.
now.
So you know what it feels like to be different even when you're not wearing glasses.
Yes. I think we all have those differences. Yeah.
I think that's fabulous. I love that you use that as a metaphor. Tell me, what other adventures has Jupiter been on before the glasses debacle?
Actually, this is my very first book, his very
Oh,
first adventure here. Yes.
okay.
First time, mhm, first time author here.
Loving the confidence that these are from the Jupiter adventure. Like we know we're first time author, but he knows there's more.
Yes. Well, I just finished I just finished my second book right already. Yeah, it's being worked on as we speak. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that.
It's
So
doing well.
how did you get started? Like, did you wake up one day and said, I need to write books? Or
Well, I've always been interested in writing, but not children's books. And so once I started working with children, probably about 5 years ago, I began, when you work with children, you read more children's books. So I've been beginning to read a lot of children's books. And then actually, it's so funny. I was working with one of my clients, one of my kids, and his parent is an author. And I sort of saw these books everywhere. I didn't know, and I was like, "Well, is someone here? Is someone here a writer?" And the dad said, "Well, I write books." And I thought, you know what? It may sound a bit, I don't know, arrogant to think that I can just go home and write a book. But I said, you know what? I think I can do that. I would like to share my experience with so many other children that I don't get to work with all over the country and possibly the world. I'm lucky enough. So that's sort of how it's very organic.
I think that's
Nothing planned.
what do you do that you work with children?
I'm an ABA therapist.
ABA therapist. Can you tell me a little bit about that for
So the work, yeah. So to not make it too complicated, it's very much working with children on the spectrum. So I do early intervention from the ages of 1 to 3. So children, so I sort of help children work through functioning, sort of getting through the world on their own, sort of everyday life.
Wow. So you absolutely know what children want to be having in a book because personal, one-on-one, you sit down with a child with special needs and work with them one-on-one.
Mhm. Yeah, yes. Every day of the week. Every day of the week. Yeah. So you learn a lot from children when you, particularly when you're doing one-on-one. You get to share the shared interest and the interest that's not so much shared, and you begin to sort of be able to figure out how can I best infiltrate the mind or build a connection with this child that can possibly be spread across many other children.
I get that. I have to tell you, your bright smile and everything. People are not going to want to just buy the book. They're going to want you to come over and say, "I have a child. Give me his phone."
Oh, please. What children are that? Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for that.
So tell me a little bit about My New Glasses. I love that your story and how you decided I could do that. I could write children's books, and you obviously have uh, the wealth of experience to approach that. Why was this the first? What impressed you about the theme of differences, and why the metaphor of glasses? How did that all come about?
So I started to, as working with children, you begin to see there's a particular sort of popular narrative around books, around children's books. There's sort of the same sort of characters, the same sort of images of children. And I thought, these children don't really particularly represent a lot of other people in the world, right? They sort of look all the same. So I thought, I wanted to create a book where the main character may fit a different look, a look that's not predominantly shown through all the books I read every day for the children that I work with. And so that was the main goal. First, I wanted to start with creating a character that could sort of represent children who are not usually represented. That was the number one. And the second one was to make sure that it was entertaining. It needed to be fun. It was something that all children could find interesting. And so that's sort of how it happened. Glasses wasn't really something, it just sort of came out. Initially, I was thinking about writing about my first toothbrush or something like that. And as I was writing, it just sort of flowed, and I stuck with it. I said, let me follow this and see what leads. And it ended up being the book that I have today.
Fantastic. Tell me about your process. So you're coming through, and the story was kind of gelling
Mm-hmm.
from the toothbrush, and the story
Mm-hmm.
was coming together. Did you visualize what it should look like, and your illustrator was able to take that vision to life? Were you surprised what it looked like? How does that work with you and an illustrator?
So I didn't don't know many illustrators. So I started looking through this website that has a lot of artists on it, and I just sort of scanned a lot of people's work, and narrowed down to some work that sort of was different than the other.
Mm.
I didn't have a. It's so funny. I didn't really have a vision of how he looked, but I knew when I saw it. I knew when I saw it that would be it. And so as I was going through it, and she sort of did a. She was right for the helpful. And she said, "Well, you know what? I'll do a picture. We can see where we go from there." And she drew this amazing picture, and I thought, you know what? This is the person I want to work with. It was very much. She did a lot of the work. She sort of brought it to life, so to speak. That's not really my. I have my own ideas, but she sort of brought it to life in her own way, and it fit my narrative perfectly.
How did you feel that first time that you got to see a literal picture of Jupiter, your little hero there?
Um, I cried a little. I cried a little because I understand how difficult it is to get from one place to the next. And so just the journey of having this idea one day and writing the story and now have it manifest into an actual image of this very person I'm writing about, it touched me greatly.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. And your illustrator did a beautiful job. How did it feel? Now I love having first time authors on. How did it feel the first time you held that book in your hand? Bring me back to that moment.
I didn't believe it. I mean, I'm one of those people who's like, not, I don't know. I couldn't get too excited about it. It felt unreal. So
Mm.
when I was touching it, it was in front of me. It was there. I could feel it, but I couldn't really understand the feelings I was having. So I didn't cry. I didn't jump up and down. I just sort of sat with it, sort of took it in, the experience of having completed the book. And I think later on, maybe weeks later, a month later, I became more and more excited about the fact that this had happened for me. And hopefully I can spread this story to as many children as possible. And they can be as happy as I was writing.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love the premise behind the book. I think the book is such a great book to purchase for any child. But if you know a young child who is feeling maybe different from other people, or going with the literal term, if you know a child who has to wear glasses, because while
Hmm.
metaphor certainly that's a child who feels different from other people. It's a great gift. Too bad. Maybe we can get them selling them in eyeglass stores also.
Yes, that was one of my my ideas. I thought that would be a great idea to sort of
I think
place
that's
it in the center like that.
sell them right there with the eyeglasses and the book. And now tell me about children that you work with. When you're working with children, is that making you think, I know what they need? This is what they're going to need to read.
I do because being a child who may be diagnosed as autistic, that is fundamental. Someone who has to understand difference at some point, sort of relating to other children. So I that was always in my head when I wanted to make sure that those children who are not re- normally represented was could find themselves in the story. So yeah, I sort of lost my train
Oh, no, that's okay.
of thought.
The best children's books, and yours is obviously hitting on all those marks, are not just for little children. The parent who's reading the story is getting just as much out of it. Isn't that the truth?
Mhm. Exactly. And so when I was doing, it's funny, when I was doing some research, they said, well, you have to remember that the parents or the guardian, mother, in the family, they're the ones buying the books. So they have to be impressed with the book themselves before the child even gets the opportunity
Mm,
to take in the picture, take in the content, understand the story. So you have to create a book that parents are attracted to. So that was one of my major goals too. I wanted to write something that parents can read and read it in a way that pleases themselves. So that's why I went with sort of a rhyming scheme, make it more fun.
hmm and you're absolutely right. Parents are the ones who've got the credit card, so
Yes.
they make the decisions. And then, if they enjoy reading the story, if they find value in the theme, they'll read it again and again and again, and recommend it to other people.
Right. And that's when I knew it was a good book. When I gave it a few free copies out to some parents and told me, what do you think? Have them read it. And they all enjoyed the book. I thought, okay, now we're
Oh,
somewhere. We made it somewhere.
yep, that was great to give some out and get some personal feedback. You know,
Mm,
you're a child professional. You work with them in a professional capacity, but a parent who's going to be buying the book to read is a different story. So it's good to get some of those other people involved. So tell me, in the future, because I see a whole series here, what else is Jupiter going to be doing in Jupiter's Adventures?
Well, the next story that actually completed and my illustrator is working on right now is his first day of school. So that's one is done. And I'm not quite sure just yet. I haven't come up with any ideas for his next adventure, but the next story is about his first day of school, what that means. If you haven't noticed, there's sort of a theme about feelings and being different and being happy and sad and all these emotions that children go through that can be overwhelming. I mean, even for adults, feelings are overwhelming as well. But for children, they can be seen insurmountable. So I wanted to continue to write about the process of working through these big feelings and how it could be fun, a fun journey to get through these feelings from sadness and happiness, excited and worried. All these feelings we have every day that we don't normally talk about.
Exactly. And like you said, adults have these big feelings too, and we don't always know what to do with them. So
Yes.
while the adult is reading the book, hopefully they're learning what they can do with those big feelings as well. Well, I think that is so beautiful, and I'm so excited. Thank you for including us on your journey. So, if you are interested in buying my new glasses from Jupiter's Adventures, please visit anthonycephaspublishing.com or get the book from an online retailer near you. My New Glasses, a story about how it feels to be different and how to deal with those big feelings: worry, nervous, anxiousness, all of those big feelings that a child and an adult can have. Anthony, I can't thank you enough for joining me. And please, please, when your new book comes out and all the other good things coming up in your life, please send them along so we can share them with our audience here at Between the Covers.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great pleasure.
My pleasure. I'm so excited to be joined today by author and poet Eva Zimmerman. She is the author of Little Critters Beyond the Pond, and it's an illustrated collection of 5 beautiful poems all about different animals around the pond: little fish, little bird, little snail, little butterfly, and oh, she'll remind me what the other little one was. I know Eva knows her 5 animals better than I do.
Oh, little bird, little butterfly, little snail, little ant, and little fish.
How could I forget little ants?
Oh, the illustrations on little ant are phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, and that's my favorite little story. Is little
Everybody loves that one the best.
ant. How could I forget little ant? So, how did you get started? What inspired you to write about? Is there one that came first and then the others?
Well, how it really started is so strange. My son was walking, this is years ago, his little 5-year-old daughter to school, and he loves to make up stories, and she was just 5. She's now 17. And she said to me, you know, Daddy told me this story about a little bird wanting to fly higher than all the other birds and fly over trees. And it was just a lovely story. And I told my son, it's such a lovely story about a little bird wanting to go higher than all the other birds and fulfill whatever potential he or she has. You should write it. And he said, yeah, I will. And then a year went by, and more than a year went by. And then by chance, I happened to watch an interview on Channel 13 with somebody who was interviewing his political science professor who is now retired and had written a children's book. And it suddenly dawned on me, I could write that story about the little bird. And I'm going to do it. He's not interested in writing it. It was such a lovely story. So that was my first inspiration. And I sat down and began to write it. And it sort of came out as a poem. I didn't intend it to. And it kind of flowed very easily. And I had so much fun writing it. And that was how I started.
Wow, I love that. You know, I had no idea. So Little Bird was first. And I am glad you took it away from your son and said, I'm doing this myself. And the other ones, did you actually see, like the one with little ant is so cute. There's a little ant and he's too lazy to carry the crumbs to the rest of the ants, and they all kind of gang up on him. And I always wondered, were you on a picnic one day seeing a whole little drama going on with ants, or did you just dream this all up yourself?
Totally not. My next one I wrote was Little Fish, because again, my son, as I said, loves to make up stories. He had told his little girl a story about a kitten coming to a pond and drinking, lapping up some water, and the fish were afraid there'd be no water left for them. I thought, oh, another wonderful story. So I wrote Little Fish. And then I thought, well, now I have to wait around for him to come up with some other idea. And then it suddenly dawned on me, I know I don't. Let me see what I can do. And so I said, well, what's another little critter that I could write about? I thought of a snail. And that was the next one. And then after that, little ant and little butterflies. So, you know, I was just having so much fun writing them that I just said to myself, now what do I write about? And then I started doing it and it just came.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I will never look at a little snail on the ground or a little ant on the ground quite the same way again after reading these poems. And they're beautiful, and each one tells a whole story from beginning to end. And you really get right into the characters of that, you know, you never thought that little ants had such personality.
Oh my goodness, isn't that fun? I loved writing about their little personalities and how they talk to one another and commiserate with one another and how they have feelings. And that's really the point is for children who are listening or reading to relate to some of those experiences and some of those feelings. And maybe a snail and maybe an ant or a butterfly or whatever, but the feelings that are being expressed are feelings that we can all relate to. And what I want is for children to have an opportunity to share with whoever is reading to them, whatever, a parent, a counselor, teacher, what their feelings might be.
That's one of the things I loved looking inside, that each story ends with questions. So
Yes.
it's a parent or a grandparent reading the book to a child that they would know, because sometimes you can't think of questions on your own. You had guided questions for them, which was so great. And a lesson. Each one had a lesson. The lesson was sharing, or the lesson was kindness. Each one had a lesson for a person to learn.
I actually I was reading it to my 9-year-old granddaughter, and she loved to think about questions the best.
Really?
Yes, because it gave both of us a chance to talk together about some of the thoughts. And I was surprised because they're a bit lengthy, these poems. She actually paid attention and, was able to answer the questions quite well. So that was heartening. That made me feel good. I'm a retired guidance counselor, so I'm sort of inclined in that direction, to kind of eke out whatever feelings and emotions and thoughts children are ready to express.
Oh, no wonder you are the perfect person to be writing this book. Have you always been a nature and animal lover as well?
I love nature. I love animals, but I love children the most. So, and I love talking with them and communicating with them. And I feel it's so important for them to have a place and a way to open up and share and feel supported and have their feelings acknowledged. So, I'm just happy to be doing that when I do my writing. I write a lot of children's poems. It's just, they all come out as poems on their own. They kind of write themselves.
I was going to ask you if you have any more that are going on right now. So you have other children's poems you've written?
I have a lot. They're all in my file cabinet, put away, just like these were in the file cabinet, for so many years. And I need to bring them out.
Absolutely, you need to bring them out, because just like little critters beyond the pond, we want people to enjoy all of your poems. So what's next for you? Are the poems going to be more for children, of course?
They're all for children. I have to sort of organize them, because some of them that are lengthy, like the ones in Little Critters, could be little books on their own, smaller books on their own. And then I have so many, several hundred actually, short poems. So I'd like to create a collection of poems, but I have to sort of categorize them. Some have to do with nature, some with feelings, some with different areas in a child's life. Right. So I'm going to start working on doing that.
Fantastic. Well, whenever the next book of poems is ready, after Little Critters, we're going to have to check them out. In the meantime, you mentioned your granddaughter, who first inspired Little Bird, is now 17?
17, yes.
So this book was a long time in coming. How many grandchildren are there?
Well, now I have 7. Yes, my son has 6 children. The oldest is 17 and the youngest is almost 6. Ooh. And my beautiful daughter just had a gorgeous baby. It's 3 months old now already. So yeah, so I have 7.
So it's
And they were all here, not the baby, but the 6 of them were here this weekend. We spent the weekend together. So it's fun. It's great.
fantastic, fantastic. Well, you certainly have a growing family, so a growing audience.
Yes. But it was funny. The 9-year-old was really into it. The 6-year-old, she liked the pictures more, I think. You know, because the language was perhaps a little advanced. I try to inject words that will challenge children, unfamiliar words that maybe they don't know, but they can say, well, what does that mean? Not too complicated, like the word linger, for example. My little 6-year-old said, what does linger mean? You know, so, but that's okay. You know, if they don't know all the words, they learn. I want it to be kind of a learning experience too. And hopefully some of the images are beautiful, and certainly the illustrator, Ellen, oh my goodness, Ellen Valentino. What a genius. She created such beautiful pictures.
That was so talented. So any tips for a budding poet out there? Because you've written all these wonderful poems. Do you have any advice for someone who's saying, I'd love to write children's poetry, I don't even know what to do?
Well, the only thing I can say is what I say to myself: don't censor yourself. Pick up the pen, start writing from your heart. Don't think too much. Just let it come from inside, from your heart. And just whatever comes is good. And then later on, you can refine it a little bit, edit it, play with it a little bit. But the most important thing is not to censor yourself.
All right. I like that advice. Thank you so much. And for anyone who is watching, you'll want to grab your copy of Little Critters Beyond the Pond by Eva Zimmerman. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephanie. It was so fun working with you. You're amazing and you're wonderful. And thank you so much for bringing my book to life. I so appreciate it.
Totally my pleasure. I am so delighted to be joined today by author Margaret Ms Sam Sansom, who is the author of George the Alligator Finds a Home. You're going to love meeting Ms Sam and hearing all about her experiences and life and what inspired George the Alligator. Ms Sam, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
Well, first you do have to tell me how you got Ms. Sam Hugs as your moniker there.
Oh, okay. My last name is Sansom. My students mispronounced it, shortened to Ms. Sam. And then I hugged every kid as they went out the door in my classroom. So it just, Ms. Sam Hugs. And I thought, well, that's great for my email.
Well, that's true. And it's funny because I knew that you were Ms. Sam and I was like, wait a minute, is she Samson or Sansom? So I'm so glad you cleared that up for me.
Right. The other thing is I was in Paris one time and I had a student, and this was like 2005, who saw me. I posted something in response to something that he had looked at on Facebook, and he checked that he texted me and said, or he didn't text me, he emailed and said, are you the Ms. Sam who gave me hugs at Central?
Oh.
You know, and he hadn't been in school for 15, 20 years.
Oh, isn't that so wonderful to know what an impact you had on people? And you have no idea who came into your classroom, and that hug was exactly what they needed that day. You know?
Yeah. I had students ask me, why do you hug us? And another student, well, because she likes us. And somebody else said something. And I said, well, those are true. However, I hug you so that other people can see that everybody is worthy of being hugged. And
you know, they say that we so need human contact, and so many people go, I mean, goodness, we just had lockdown. I mean, people could go years without human contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did a lot of this.
Yeah, I have a cat. And I know it's not quite the same, but
No, but they can give a lot of love.
they absolutely can. Not mine particularly, but other cats can, I hear.
Oh, okay.
I adore my cat, but really, she's a cat with boundaries. She wants to be seen but not touched.
Oh, I've never had boundary cats.
Good
Just
for you. Good for you. Yeah, mine is definitely a boundary cat. But I'm so glad. Now tell me about teaching. What grades did you teach and how long were you a teacher?
I started teaching in 1962 and I taught in regular high schools for 4 years. Then I was off for a while and did some traveling and worked at various interesting jobs. And then I came back to Barstow, and it's a continuation high school. And I started there in 1970, and 34 years later, I retired. I got to be 65 and I said, I'm done. And it's a good thing I was done because that was just when they started teaching to the test
Oh,
and not to students. So I was happy that that's the way that went. But I taught social studies, English, business, art, music history, student council. I don't know. The business thing was adding machines and typing, and it was crazy.
yeah.
All in the same classroom. Well, the yearbook and the art were in one classroom, and all the rest of them were in another classroom, all going on at the same time at different points.
Wow. And you said continuation high school. Can you tell me what that means?
It's the students 16 years and older who are removed for whatever reason from the regular high school.
Oh, okay.
At-risk students.
So you were really with people who so needed you and your personal direction.
Well, they pretended they did, so that's okay.
Well, you bumped into a student in Paris, so he's doing okay now for himself.
Yeah, no, he wasn't in Paris. He was back here at home.
Oh,
And,
okay.
it was over, but I've bumped into students all over the place. And the
Wow.
thing about living in the same town is I go to the grocery store and I know it's a former student when it's Miss Sam, Miss Sam.
Isn't that great? Oh my gosh. I could see why you never want to leave Barstow because you get to just bump into familiar faces all the time.
Right.
So you were a high school teacher. Now that's
Yes.
funny because so many people who love to write children's books are like nursery teachers or pre-K or something. Tell me a little bit about George the Alligator Finds a Home. What inspired the story? And now I'm so curious since it's not really your grade level that you taught so long.
Uh-huh. Well, this is interesting. I was in Paris for 5 months in 2005,
Mhm.
and I dreamed this story. Totally dreamed it. Everything, the pictures are pretty much the way I dreamed them too. The text is pretty much, there were a few changes that I made, and some of the pictures didn't quite work out, but it was like I seldom remember dreams, seldom. And that morning I got up and sat down at the computer, boom, typed it out. It sat for 16, 17 years.
Wow, but start to finish. You woke up from the dream, and some people say, I can never remember my dream. Maybe I should leave a notepad on the bed. You remembered all of it.
All of it. And I don't remember my dreams.
This was the only one.
This is just about it. I've had about 4 or 5 dreams that I remember in total.
Right, right.
So,
But this one, and then 16 years, it lay in a drawer. Did you have, or
it was just in the computer.
just in the computer?
Yeah.
16 years and you never got a new computer, so you lost it? It was
Well, no, I transferred my files.
good for you. Good for you, because some of us mean to transfer our files and
Yeah.
things happen. Things happen. So 16 years later, and I'm sure multiple computers because
Yes.
they don't last forever and they keep fixing and updating and things like that.
Yes.
And George the Alligator Finds a Home. Now, it's such a sweet story about how an alligator, and one would think an alligator would be kind of a frightful animal, but
Yeah.
becomes a beloved family pet, and even the other animals, come to trust him and
Mhm.
know him. And that's such a wonderful story. I love children's books because they have a lesson.
Yes.
They have a lesson in there. When you had this story in your mind and all those years afterwards, what do you want a child to come away from the book knowing or feeling?
It'd be a feeling because it's not said directly. It's that don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing. First
Mm,
impressions can often be quite wrong.
right,
And next is give everyone a chance.
right.
And I think there's good in everybody.
No, that's so true. Is
So,
we as the people are way too judgmental, and then we don't give people chances.
right.
Were you picturing that somebody would be reading the story like a teacher to a class when you were writing it? Were you picturing, a mother or a guardian with a child? Did you have a picture in your head of, I can't wait to see someone holding the book for that?
What the picture that I have is probably either a teacher or somebody like at the library, they have children's hour, and holding the book up and then having little discussions, because there's not a lot of direct, you have to sort of figure it out. This is not one of those that tells you every move to make. And it also is, it's sort of in the Dick and Jane illustration style. So it's not really specific in many instances. So it's something that a teacher or a person, a nice little old granny or whoever does their children's hour, will have discussions with the kids.
Now tell me something. Ever since retirement, do you do anything with children still, or you're like, done? I had enough of kids.
I haven't gone back. I did try substituting for a while, but I found it very frustrating because things had changed so much.
Yeah.
The thrust of what we were doing, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. Like you said, the push to the test. I was
Yes.
wondering, even if you were doing story time with little ones, if that would be something that now you have your own book.
Yeah. Well, I might see about the library. I don't think they started it back up yet,
Oh,
but I
yeah,
know we do have story time here.
that's the other thing, is whether or not things are available. So,
Right.
what would you say to somebody who has a dream, or maybe they want to have a dream to get started? Any tips on how to remember, how to write it down, how to find what that point is? What would you say to our budding children's author?
I don't know, because I was so lucky. I mean, it just was there. And I hadn't thought a thing about writing a children's book. Nothing until this thing, I dreamed it. So, but basically, the one bit of advice I would have is, please don't let it sit forever. Get it out there, let people enjoy it, and then go on to something else. Maybe you'll write more books, maybe you won't, but it's still, if you have a book inside you, let's get it into print.
I think that is so true, because you have no idea how many people come to me with things that have been stuck in a drawer for decades. And I hope during lockdown, a whole lot of people looked through their drawers to find things that they wish were out in the open.
Right.
Well, for all of our animal lovers out there, all teachers or parents or guardians who are looking for a lovely way for a child to learn the lesson of not to judge a book by its cover and to give others a chance, George the Alligator Finds a Home by Margaret Ms Sam Sansom. And I thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And happy writing.
Thank you. And I will.